Coming up in this forward-looking edition of Inside Bellingham, it's winter, storms, trees, not a good mix. We'll find out what property owners can do to protect trees. And Brian Flannelly has some suggestions about helping firefighters and paramedics find your house in an emergency. And we'll check in on Public Works capital projects with the city's engineers. All this and more coming up next, right here on Inside Bellingham. Hi, I'm Laura Greenfield, and this is Fairhaven Village on the south side of Bellingham, home to many locally owned shops and small businesses that are the engine of Bellingham's economy. It's tempting, particularly when it's cold or gloomy outside, to just pull open the keyboard and shop at home on the internet. But the folks who own most of these businesses are locals. They're our neighbors, and they need our business to thrive. When we shop locally, we help not only our friends and neighbors, but also our community. Revenue from sales in these stores directly support our parks, police, fire, and other city services that make Bellingham a great place to live. So next time you're in the mood for new clothes, books, kitchen tools, toys, or anything else, shop local. Bellingham has the goods. The address on your house, apartment, or condo has more importance than simply a place for the post office to drop your mail. Picture this. It's late at night. It's dark, windy, and rainy. You've just placed a 911 call because someone in your home has been badly hurt. The fire department is responding. They can easily find your street, but can they see your house number? Can they find your home among your neighbors? The key is, of course, the set of numbers on the front of your house. If they're not clearly placed and easily seen, that could mean precious moments lost in an emergency. Brian Flannelly has been providing emergency services in Bellingham since the early Jurassic period, and he has some advice on how you can improve response time when you have to call 911.
Got a question for you. When you go outside your house and stand at the curb, can you see your house number? Is it clearly visible against a contrasting background? Like this. Chances are, if you can't see your house number, we can't see it either. And in an emergency, every second counts. Let's have a look at the city regulations, which are all available online. The numbers in the side of your house have to be at least 4 inches high, half an inch wide, against a contrasting background. The nice thing about this sign is it's very highly reflective. And in the wintertime, with all the rain and the dark, we need all the help we can get. And why do we have all these regulations? It's to keep you and your family safe. All our training and equipment don't help if we can't find you quickly. And our first step begins years before you call 911. Every new firefighter is required to memorize every street name, sequence, and numbering system in the city. A city of 75,000 people shouldn't be too hard to learn, but Bellingham has special challenges. The original 4 settlements around Bellingham Bay each had their own grid pattern, which still don't mesh very well.
So Ron, why don't you route me?
So the next challenge for our recruits is routing. What's the fastest and safest way to get to your neighborhood?
2315 Williams Way.
So I'd take a left out of the station onto Deemer, take a right onto Telegraph, up to Meridian, and then I'd take a left on Meridian and head south.
This process never ends.
Flannelly, you, hot seat, streets and numbers.
Even those who have been here since the mid-Jurassic era still have to give directions to random addresses from the phone book.
You know how to get from here to our calls. So route me to, 3901 McGrath.
Left out of the station onto Deemer, left on Telegraph, a right-hand turn on James Street, left-hand turn on Woodstock Way, which becomes Orleans Street, left on Sunset, which becomes Mount Baker Highway. All this pre-planning pays off when an emergency call occurs. This computer gives us detailed information about the call, along with the nearest intersection. Our map book provides us with that much more detail as we get closer to your house. But once we're near, we slow down and look for each and every address. I see 4310, 4350, and 4380. We're here. So how can you help us to find you? Well, post your numbers by the front door, because that's really where we look first. Make sure they're large enough with a contrasting background so we can see them. If you could have them made out of a reflective material, it helps us out that much more. Here in the winter, in the dark, with the rain, we really need something that stands out, like this. Putting numbers on your curb really doesn't help us. They're usually covered by a car, leaves, or snow. Do you have any tree limbs or shrubs in the way? And what if your house isn't visible from the road? Make sure your mailbox has big, bright numbers on both sides. You never know which direction we're traveling from. If your mailbox is across the road, consider placing a postmarker next to your driveway. Remember my first question about seeing your own house numbers? Now take a moment and look at your neighbors. Keep in mind that we look at all the numbers as we approach. If we can see theirs clearly, then we can get to you that much faster. So as a service to your family, your neighbors, and your community, please make your house numbers visible. Please help us so we can help you.
You can find out more about the Bellingham Fire Department by visiting their website at www.cob.org/fire. On January 19th, the city will celebrate the life and mission of Martin Luther King Jr., a man who in just 39 years became a human rights icon in this country, a Nobel Peace Prize recipient who is remembered most for his tireless efforts of the civil rights movement during the 1950s and 60s before an assassin took his life in 1968. Every year, the city hosts a celebration with music, inspirational messages, and a coming together of the community to celebrate human rights. Councilman Terry Borneman has long been involved in planning these yearly events, and we asked him to tell us about this year's celebration.
We feel it's an important celebration because it celebrates the life, the time, and dreams and vision of Martin Luther King. Traditionally, many Martin Luther King celebrations have been centered around the African American community, but here in Bellingham we are a multicultural city, and we try to include that as part of all of the celebrations. So we try to bring in speakers from different ethnicities. We try to include either the Lummi or Nooksack Nation as part of it, or the Hispanic community, and we try to make it a multi-generational. So this year we're going to have Clyde Ford will be the MC.
This is also, I think we might believe, the beginning of a new time in America, a new era in America, a time certainly of great work when perhaps we can begin to recoup the many losses, both foreign and domestic, that we have suffered.
Barbara Ryan from the City Council. We'll have a youth speaker, Simone Prince Eisner from Vista Middle School, because we think it's so important that we pass on the youth's vision of of culture. We'll have representatives from the Lummi Nation, and Kevin Murphy, a performance artist, will be speaking, and of course the Cultion Choir.
Let the rocks their silence break. Sweet freedom, let freedom ring.
Well, the Cultion Chorus is a group of people of all ages, men, women, and children, varies from season to season, that sings in honor of diversity of humankind. We sing in honor of that diversity and our place within the family of humankind.
You can participate in the MLK celebration on January 19th at noon in the city's municipal court building on C Street. Or you can watch it broadcast live on BTV 10. It will also be rebroadcast on BTV 10 throughout the rest of January. Check out our schedule at www.cob.org. Think of trees as an investment. A healthy tree increases in value as it ages. Mature trees enhance the value of our property. They provide food and protection for wildlife. But winter can be tough on trees, especially when there's strong winds, freezing rain, and heavy snow piled high on fragile limbs. Tree loss in our yards can be devastating. For some, trees are like family, and their loss isn't easily shrugged off. James Luce is the city's arborist, and we asked him for some advice on protecting trees before and after storms.
What happened on this one, this was a cedar that had a codominant stem, so we're talking about two huge trunks growing right together, and where they were attached was rotten and pushing each other off, so one of them failed. Luckily it failed in a direction where it didn't really take out too much, leaving just the other one. That's high risk to leave the rest of that, particularly when it's right in a high use area across a parking area like this where people stop. A lot of people have lunch in their cars right here. It'd be a bad spot to leave it. Winds start blowing over 60 miles an hour. Just to get over the structural load capability of a lot of things, including a lot of trees. The storm damage often will break off branches and leave a jagged stub or a big tear. One of the best things we can do in those cases is just to make a proper pruning cut so that the tree has a chance to grow new wood around that wound. On this silver maple, we can see where the tree was pruned correctly for the old break. It was cut cleanly, not too deep into the trunk, just right, and we've had a chance for the tree to very evenly grow around with the new wood, and it's going to seal this off in just another few years to where it's completely compartmentalized the wound, stopping the decay. Another thing is if a tree used to have the company of other trees, for example, the edges of new constructions are a real dramatic difference, and in a big storm event, you'll see lots of tree failures on what we call a fresh edge because the trees are no longer protected by all their buddies. They've got to take these stresses on their own. Another thing that can really change dramatically and can lead to tree failures is changes in the water, surface water or the water table. And saturated soils, even if the tree has strong roots, might not be able to hold. And you'll see that often where a tree will pull up, you'll see the whole thin root plate popped up out of the ground. So we can ask ourselves, well, what can we do to lessen tree risk or the risk of tree failure? And there's a few things that make sense to do. And one is to take a look at your trees. For example, a big crack up a trunk or a main stem is a red flag, an indication that that is a weak point. Obvious decay or dead in a tree can be a red flag, a sign that we've got to look at something. New lean of a tree. If the tree used to be upright and now it's leaning over pretty dramatically, well, that might be a sign that we need to take a look at the base of that tree and see if it is stable. Other things we can do to make trees more sound in big winds or big weather events is to pick the right type of trees and plant them in good locations where they can grow well. A good example would be a lot of our street trees. We don't see a lot of storm damage, even in the biggest wind events. We get some, but not a lot. And I think we can point to the reason that they're try to pick good nursery stock that's healthy to start with, and then give it good structural pruning from the time when the tree is very young to promote a branching structure that is strong and balanced and able to withstand a lot of forces of the weather. So if a tree's really had a lot of damage in a storm, there might be times when it is the best thing you can do is to remove that tree and start over. After the storm, when our safety considerations have been taken care of, there's really not usually a big rush to start working on the trees. You've got time to make some decisions. You can get some good advice from a qualified arborist about what you may or may not want to do. Because the people that I think that are good are the ones that care about the trees, that care about the science behind the trees, that help you make good decisions, and want to do the right thing for trees over just make money doing the work.
You can find out more about trees and protecting them at www.treesaregood.com. Every year, the city has a number of major public works projects that are in the process of completion. It's important that the community understand what those projects entail and how they are progressing. In that regard, we have an update on 4 capital projects that involve water mains, sewers, streetscapes, and street improvements. Major projects all.
We're on the Cornwall Avenue project. Our project was kind of threefold. We had a water main improvement that was identified. We had a resurfacing that was identified, and we kind of look at those types of priorities together. And then we also had our comp plan, which said when you're looking at doing construction on an arterial that doesn't have a bike lane, please evaluate whether or not you can incorporate a bike lane. So the water main replacement was for the entire project from Chestnut all the way to Illinois. And then the resurfacing that was identified was essentially from York to Illinois, and we ended up extending that a block to Champion Street based on the conditions we found during construction. The public process for the bike lane started in February, and we met with 3 different neighborhood groups. We also met with the Parking Commission, as well as having a public hearing at the City Council level. Because of the width of the street and the need for the extra turn lane that you see behind me, there's a center left turn lane, it was determined that we would have to eliminate 1 lane of parking in order to accommodate a bike lane on both sides. We started in early 2008. We started with the water main first because we had the Sea to Ski parade that we knew could be a conflict. We told the contractor, you need to finish the section affected by the parade first. They were able to complete that on schedule.
We're at the intersection of Bay Street, Prospect Street, and Holly Street here in Bellingham, kind of the northern part of the downtown, you might say. As with a lot of our downtown rehab projects, it's also coupled with a water line replacement project. We've basically knocked out about half the original driving asphalt, for cars and replaced it with pedestrian areas. And we've used some kind of old school 2-foot by 2-foot square concrete sidewalk here. But the real gem of it is in these sort of high traffic areas along the buildings. There's granite pavers. We've got our commitment to strengthening our urban core with the museum, with the theater projects, and so this again sort of highlights that. The idea with this project here is to sort of tie the downtown into that arts district and really to make it just more pedestrian friendly. North Shore went from Britain Road to basically Alabama and Dakin, which is right now where Whatcom Falls Park comes up by Electric Ave there. It was basically a road project that got a stormwater main improvement project tagged onto it, and it was acknowledged to be kind of again a missing link between Whatcom Falls Park into urban trails there, and then there are bike lanes out on both Britain and on Barkley and on McLeod. Well, what we did is we took the existing road surface, which was kind of your typical arterial, about 12.5 feet per vehicle lane, and we chopped off about 1.5 feet of each one. And where you would normally add 5 feet of asphalt for a bike lane, we went ahead and did a 5-foot wide trench, filled it full of drain rock and then a layer of sand, and then put porous concrete over it. The porous concrete allows you to provide an opportunity for stormwater runoff to get back into the ground the way it would have if the road wasn't there. The sidewalk's the same as well. It's great. I've seen people out there with their strollers and the bikes on the bike lanes, and it's awesome. It works well. Nothing but thanks out to everybody in the Silver Beach area for being really good about it and tolerating, a substantial mess.
We're at the intersection of 12th and Bennett. where we did part of our annual street sewer rehabilitation program, and we used mainly the technique of relining the sewer pipe with a cured-in-place pipe. The rehabilitation is a pretty standard technique that's used throughout the city. We've used it in a number of neighborhoods in previous years and this year, including the Columbia neighborhood, Electric Avenue, and F Street. And it's a pretty standard process where we take an inverted pipe and we insert it into the sanitary sewer system and then apply a steam through the pipe, which activates the resin in the pipe and cures it to a hard pipe. The cured-in-place pipe is about as strong as a PVC pipe or replacement. The advantage of the cured-in-place pipe is that we don't have to dig up any of the road in order to get to it. So it's clean, it's easy, so there's a significant savings, not only dollar-wise, but also just time. And then it minimizes the impact to the residents as well.
You can find out more about these and other public works projects at the city's website, www.cob.org. It's a new year, and that means, among other things, that it's time for organizations to apply for the city's Small and Simple Grant Program. This year, there's a new category of small and simple grants called the Healthy Neighborhoods Initiative. We asked Linda Stewart, the city's Neighborhood Services Coordinator, to tell us what this new approach to the Small and Simple Grant Program is all about.
The exciting news about Small and Simple grants for 2009 is that we're diverting the money primarily to neighborhood associations. What that means is we are requesting neighborhoods to apply for Small and Simple grant funding that meets certain project category needs. Those project categories would result in a healthier neighborhood and thereby a healthier community. A perfect example of where we'd like these partnerships to go at the neighborhood level is something that started down at the South Neighborhood Association in 2008. Steve Wilson is the board president of the Center for Local Self-Reliance.
The Center for Local Self-Reliance was given permission by City Council in September to rehabilitate the caretaker's house at Fairhaven Park Rose Garden. So we're in a fundraising state right now, trying to raise money and collect some volunteers to get ready to rehabilitate the house. We have a big site here. It's about a little over an acre here that we're going to incorporate into gardens as well. This last calendar year, 2008, we had a Small and Simple grant to rehabilitate the gazebo that we're under right now and the trellises that had fallen into disrepair. So we've identified this site because it's so centrally located to several neighborhoods, and we've decided that we can enhance the natural beauty of this area and bring people in and expand the usage of the park by putting in some energy with volunteers. The Small and Simple grant's a perfect opportunity for us to get the city working with the neighborhoods, and for the neighborhoods to begin working and networking with the middle school across the street and merchants in the Fairhaven area. We can breathe some new life into this area if we all work together.
So Steve Wilson and the Center for Local Self-Reliance are great examples of the projects that we're looking for 2009. They build on a neighborhood association idea, and they result in a diverse collaboration that meets a community need. Now, one of the reasons that we're going in this direction of Healthy Neighborhoods initiatives in 2009 is the work being done by the Whatcom Coalition for Healthy Communities. Elizabeth Jennings is the executive director.
At the Whatcom Coalition for Healthy Communities, we help connect people to information about the broad definition of community health. We help neighborhoods do that through WhatcomCounts.org. WhatcomCounts.org is a community health website where we track information about the health of Whatcom County. And included there are lots of organizations, over 1,200 organizations that neighborhoods and other groups can connect with to partner on projects like the Healthy Neighborhoods Initiative. And in addition to that, We also provide promising practices on WhatcomCounts.org. These are evidence-based examples of how projects have made a difference in other communities. So people don't have to reinvent the wheel. They can find groups in other parts of the country that have worked on these same issues successfully.
A really cool aspect of this revision is being able to have the city participate in a local, regional, statewide, and national emphasis on having communities become healthier by building supports for physical activity at the local level. And this means that, you know, as a result of some of these projects, we want to see some community gardens, we want to see some trail extensions, we want to see, you know, some people have built, you know, some benches for folks to take a rest on a trail, or maybe help get some lighting in a park, or engage residents in walking or running programs, or bike awareness programs, those types of things. These are all possible with the Small and Simple Healthy Neighborhoods Initiatives projects.
You can get more information about the Healthy Neighborhood Initiative, including application forms, on the city's website, www.cob.org. When it's cold outside, it's so much easier to just stay inside and watch TV. But outside is good. So head out to one of our beautiful parks or trails. When was the last time you took a stroll around Lake Patton, for instance? Or how about the Great South Bay Trail right here in Fairhaven? After you've stretched your legs and done your heart a little good, you can head home and warm up with a hot cup of cocoa, a great winter tradition. If you have thoughts about this show or others on BTV10, we'd like to hear from you. You can reach us through our website or directly via email. More daylight every day as we march towards spring. It's beautiful here in Bellingham. Get out and see for yourself. Don't be a hostage of winter. I'm Laura Greenfield. Thanks for watching.